So many questions tonight, 5 years later. Who killed Abby and Libby, and why? And will this killer be brought to justice? I'd like to welcome the top investigator on the case, Superintendent Doug Carter with the Indiana State Police. You've seen him a number of times throughout the show. He is joining us live tonight. Appreciate your time tonight.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Marnie.
I was listening closely to your interview with our reporter, Rich McHugh, and at one point you said that the killer is watching and will meet them soon. And I couldn't help but notice you glanced at the camera as though you may have been looking at the killer. What makes you think that they're watching?
Well, I think that even though we're at the 5-year mark, I still believe, even today, that he knows what's happening. He knows what's happening nationally. He knows what's happening locally. He knows who's covering the story and what's being said, and very likely he's even going to be watching this interview tonight. And I want to clear, Marty, I'm not the lead detective, but I represent many of them that are on this case.
And I know there are many working tirelessly. You are front and center on many of the interviews, so I appreciate the clarification. Has the person responsible reached out to you or other investigators directly?
They have not. No, they have not.
In terms of the evidence, you say it's important that you don't show your hand. It's been 5 years, and you know the frustration from people who follow this case closely. They want answers. Wouldn't releasing information now, more information that you have, be helpful in producing more tips from the public?
Well, I know there's frustration. I know there's frustration locally, and there's frustration literally from around the world. I receive 25 to 30 tips a week just at my desk here in Indianapolis. So I know that there's frustration, and I know that there is a lot of speculative opinion about what we should do, criticism about what we've done, and how we've handled this up to this point. I would just say to that, Marnie, that this is very, very dynamic. It hasn't slowed down too much over the course of these last few years, and I don't anticipate that it will. So everything is calculated. This has been a strategic process from the very beginning, and I completely support what the investigators have decided to do. You know, they've given their life to this, and I've developed lifelong friendships now with the family of Abby and Libby, and there's no one on the planet that wants to go to them more than me and say, we finally did it.
How much more video and audio evidence do you have?
I'm not going to talk about what we have that we haven't released. The purpose of this was to talk specifically about the human effect of this and what it's caused over the course of these last 5 years.
But can you confirm there is more evidence out there?
Yes, we have evidence that we've not released, and eventually I want to be able to tell the world what we know, and I believe that we will.
There is a report and some court documents that suggest there's up to 43 seconds of video. Can you confirm that?
I can't. I can't. Again, I'm not going to talk about what we know or about what I think. I must talk about what we know, and there are some things that we know that I just simply cannot release.
I understand. I'd like to talk about these two sketches that were released years apart by investigators. The images have caused quite a bit of speculation, also some confusion. Are there two suspects that you're looking for?
There are not. There are not. I saw some coverage tonight where I saw Becky Patty was interviewed back in 2019 when that was done, and she said tonight it was like a gut punch, and I felt that gut punch tonight because I would never ever intentionally cause that to happen. Again, this is very strategic, and I really believe, Marnie, that eventually we're going to take both of those sketches. Remember, a sketch is not a photograph, but we'll take both of those sketches and we'll put them together and then remove them, and the killer will be behind them.
So is the sketch Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just going to ask, is the sketch, how does the public receive this information? Is the sketch, the ultimate suspect, a combination of these two images put on this body that we're seeing on screen right now?
Yes, I believe that we'll be able to put the two of them together and drop the sketch, and that will be the person responsible for the death of Abby and Libby.
Do you anticipate releasing another sketch, perhaps a third sketch that is more of a cross between the two?
No, I have no intention of that happening. At least that's not what any of the detectives have brought to me or talked about.
DNA is critical to solving so many of these types of crimes. How important is it in a case like this?
Well, of course, it's very, very important. And technology associated, generally speaking, with complex homicide investigations continues to become better over time. And I think that will be the case with many of these unsolved crimes around the country as we continue to work through them and time goes by.
And is it an important component of this investigation?
It is.
Keegan Kline, he was brought up several times in our reporting tonight. He has not been named as a suspect. Has he been questioned in relation to this case, and why release that fake social media account? What was the purpose of that?
Yeah, again, a very dynamic situation and very strategic decision to do that. And what I can say about Keegan Kline is when that was released not long ago, significant tips have come in that have been very meaningful to us. So we're just beginning with the Anthony Schatz profile and what that might mean to the Delphi homicides.
What does the fake social media account have to do with your outreach to the public? What are you asking for from the public in terms of focusing on Keegan Kline, focusing on this Anthony Schatz, releasing that to the public? What is your message to people who may have crossed paths?
To let us know if they did. And we explained that pretty well when that was released, I thought. I felt that it was very well done, and we've received a tremendous amount of tips since then. So we'll follow up on every single one of those with anyone that's had any contact with Keegan Kline or Anthony Schatz.
Superintendent, the day that Abby and Libby's bodies were found, I know you were there. I know you chose to drive home the long way, as you say, to process what you had seen, and you didn't listen to any music. You just thought about this horrific crime. What motivates you today, 5 years later, to solve this case?
There are so many pieces to it that have had such a detrimental effect on so many people. And we owe the community, we owe the family, we owe the state and literally the nation. And we owe the state and literally the nation. There's so many pieces to it that have had such a detrimental effect on so many people. And we owe the community, we owe the family, we owe the state and literally the nation an explanation as to what happened. That's Anytown America, Marnie. It's Anytown America. And the level of violence, it just gut-wrenching to me to think about what happened to those little girls and then ultimately what happened to the community. But I would like to say, even through all the criticism and all the things that we've been through associated with this, which I understand I'm not being critical of, so much good has come of this. That community in Carroll County and Delphi is wonderful. The people there, how they've responded to this, how they've come together in such a terrible, terrible, terrible dark time is something that I'll remember till my final day. I still spend time on that trail, and I still spend time in that small town. And I feel for the sheriff's office and the city PD there, and the hundreds of people from the state police here in Indiana that have been involved in that, and I believe will come to a successful conclusion.
Superintendent, I know that you have spent countless hours working this case, as your colleagues have as well alongside you. You called this the totality of evil, and I pray tonight that you are in fact close to catching this killer for Abby and Libby, for their families, and for all those who have followed this case so closely. Thank you for your investigative work, and I appreciate you coming on and speaking with us live tonight. I know you don't do it very often. I wish you the best, and
it's been a pleasure.
I'd love to have you back when you catch this guy.
I'd love to come back. Thank you.
Superintendent Doug Carter.